Brought to you by WikiVidi Documentaries. Marvel Cinematic Universe. The Marvel Cinematic Universe is an American media franchise and shared universe that is centered on a series of superhero films, independently produced by Marvel Studios and based on characters that appear in publications by Marvel Comics. The franchise has expanded to include comic books, short films, television series, and digital series. The shared universe, much like the original Marvel Universe in comic books, was established by crossing over common plot elements, settings, cast, and characters. Phil Coulson, portrayed by Clark Gregg, is an original character to the MCU, and the only character to appear across all the different media of the MCU. The first film released in the MCU was Iron Man, which began the first phase of films culminating in the crossover film Marvel's The Avengers. Phase 2 began with Iron Man 3, and concluded with Ant-Man. The films are currently in Phase 3, which began with the release of Captain America: Civil War. Marvel Television expanded the universe further, first to network television, with Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. on ABC in the 2013-14 television season, followed by online streaming with Marvel's Daredevil on Netflix in 2015, and then to cable television with Marvel's Cloak and Dagger, which is scheduled to air in 2018 on Freeform. Marvel Television has also produced the digital series Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Slingshot, which is a supplement to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. soundtrack albums have been released for all of the films, along with many of television series, as well as the release of compilation albums containing existing music heard in the films. The MCU also includes tie-in comics published by Marvel Comics, while Marvel Studios has also produced a series of direct-to-video short films and a viral marketing campaign for its films in the universe, with the phone news program WHIH Newsfront. The franchise has been commercially successful as a multimedia shared universe, though some critics have found that some of its films and television series have suffered in service of the wider universe. It has inspired other film and television studios with comic book character adaptation rights to attempt to create similar shared universes. The MCU has also been the focus of other media outside of the shared universe, including attractions at the Disneyland Resort and Discovery Times Square, 2 television specials, guidebooks for each film, a Lego video game, and a commercial with Coca-Cola. Films. By 2005, Marvel Entertainment began planning to independently produce its own films and distribute them through Paramount Pictures. Previously, Marvel had co-produced several superhero films with Columbia Pictures, New Line Cinema and others, including a 7-year development deal with 20th Century Fox. Marvel made relatively little profit from its licensing deals with other studios, and wanted to get more money out of its films while maintaining artistic control of the projects and distribution. Avi Arad, head of Marvel's film division, was pleased with Sam Raimi's Spider-Man films at Sony, but was less pleased about others. As a result, they decided to form Marvel Studios, Hollywood's first major independent movie studio since DreamWorks. Arad's second-in-command, Kevin Feige, realized that unlike Spider-Man and the X-Men, whose film rights were licensed to Sony and Fox, respectively, Marvel still owned the rights to the core members of the Avengers. Feige, a self-professed fanboy, envisioned creating a shared universe just as creators Stan Lee and Jack Kirby had done with their comic books in the early 1960s. To raise capital, The studio secured funding from a 7-year, $525 million revolving credit facility with Merrill Lynch. Marvel's plan was to release individual films for their main characters, and then merge them together in a crossover film. Arad, who doubted the strategy yet insisted that it was his reputation that helped secure the initial financing, resigned the following year. In 2007, at 33 years old, Feige was named studio chief. In order to preserve its artistic integrity, Marvel Studios formed a 6-person creative committee with people familiar with its comic book lore that included Feige, Marvel Studios co-president Luis D'Esposito, Marvel Comics president of publishing Dan Buckley, Marvel's chief creative officer Joe Quesada, writer Brian Michael Bendis, and Marvel Entertainment president Alan Fine, who oversaw the committee. Feige initially referred to the shared narrative continuity of these films as the Marvel Cinema Universe, but later used the term Marvel Cinematic Universe. Marvel has designated the Marvel Cinematic Universe as Earth 199,999 within the continuity of the company's multiverse, a collection of fictional alternate universes. In November 2013, Feige said that, in an ideal world, releases each year would include one film based on an existing character and one featuring a new character, saying it's a nice rhythm in that format. While not always the case, as evident by the 2013 releases of Iron Man 3 and Thor: The Dark World, he said it is certainly something to aim for. Feige expanded on this in July 2014, saying, "I don't know that we'll keep to that model every year, but we're doing that in 2014 and 2015. So I think it would be fun to continue that sort of thing." In February 2014, Feige stated that Marvel Studios wants to mimic the rhythm that the comic books have developed by having the characters appear in their own films, and then come together. Much like a big event, a crossover series, with Avengers films acting as big, giant linchpins. After the reveal of multiple release dates for films through 2019 in July 2014, Feige stated, "I think if you look at some of those dates that we've announced, we're going to 3 in a few of those years. Again, not because there's a number cruncher telling us to go to 3, to more than 2 pictures a year, but because of the very reason just laid out. It is about managing existing franchises, film to film. And when we have a team ready to go, why tell them to go away for 4 years just because we don't have a slot? We'd rather find a way to keep that going." After the titles were revealed in October 2014, Feige said, "The studio's firing on all cylinders right now, which made us comfortable for the first time to increase to 3 films a year in 2017 and 2018 instead of just 2, without changing our methods on expanding the characters in the universe and letting individual films breathe and work on their own, as opposed to having Avenger team-ups outside of Avengers films," Feige stated. "It's about teaching the general movie-going audience about the notion of the characters existing separately, coming together for specific events and going away, and existing separately in their own worlds again, just like comic readers have been doing for decades and decades. People sort of are accepting that there's just a time when they should be together and there's a time when they're not." In April 2014, Feige revealed that Edgar Wright's pitch for Ant-Man in 2006 helped shape the early films of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, saying, "We changed, frankly, some of the MCU to accommodate this version of Ant-Man. Knowing what we wanted to do with Edgar and with Ant-Man, going years and years back, helped to dictate what we did with the roster for Avengers the first time. It was a bit of both in terms of his idea for the Ant-Man story influencing the birth of the MCU in the early films leading up to Avengers. In October 2014, Marvel held a press event to announce the titles of their Phase 3 films. The event, which drew comparisons to Apple's Worldwide Developers Conference, was done because all the information was ready. As Feige explained, "We wanted to do this at San Diego Comic-Con this year. Things were not set. So the plan has been, since a few weeks before Comic-Con, when we realized we weren't going to be able to do everything we wanted to do, is to decide, let's do either something we haven't done in a long time, or something we've never done, which is a singular event, just to announce what we have when it's ready." I thought that might be early August, or mid-September. It ended up being at the end of October. In September 2015, after Marvel Studios was integrated into the Walt Disney Studios, with Feige reporting to Walt Disney Studios chairman Alan Horn instead of Marvel Entertainment CEO Isaac Perlmutter. It was reported that the studio's creative committee would have nominal input on the films moving forward, though would continue to consult on Marvel Television productions, which remained under Perlmutter's control. All key film decisions going forward will be made by Feige, Esposito and Victoria Alonso at the end of the month, on how much story is developed for future films of the universe. Feige said there are broad strokes, though sometimes super specific things, but for the most part, in broad strokes that are broad enough and loose enough that if through the development of 4 of 5 movies before we get to the culmination, we still have room to sway and to move and to go, and to surprise ourselves in places that we end up, so that all the movies, hopefully, when they're finished, will feel like they're all interconnected and meant to be, and planned far ahead, but really can live and breathe enough as individual movies to be satisfying each and of themselves." The studio also has various contingency plans for the direction of all of their films. In the event they are unable to secure a certain actor to reprise a role, or reacquire the film rights to a character, such as was done in February 2015 with Spider-Man. In April 2016, on moving the universe to Phase 4 and reflecting on the first 3, Feige said, "I think there will be a finality to moments of Phase 3, as well as new beginnings, that will mark a distinctively different chapter in what will someday be a complete first saga made up of 3 phases." Joe Russo added, "You build things up and people enjoy the experiences you've built up. But then you kind of reach an apex, or you reach a climax, a moment where you go, this structure is really going to start to be repetitious if we do this again. So what do we do now, sir? Now, you deconstruct it." We're in the deconstruction phase, with Captain America, Civil War and leading into Avengers, Infinity War, which are the culmination films. A year later, Feige felt after the conclusion of Phase 3, Marvel might abandon grouping the films by phases, saying, "It might be a new thing." On the potential for superhero fatigue, Feige stated, "This year 2016, we've got Civil War and we've got Doctor Strange in November. 2 completely different movies. To me, and to all of Marvel Studios, that's what keeps it going. As long as we're surprising people. As long as we're not falling into things becoming too similar." Next year, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, Spider-Man, Homecoming, Thor, Ragnarok. Those are 3 totally different movies. As long as the only shared thing is they come from the same source material, and they've got our Marvel logo in front of the movies. Other than that, they can be very distinct. What other studios do, what other properties, nothing we can do about it. Distributors. Over time, the distribution rights to Marvel Studios films changed hands on multiple occasions. In November 2006, Universal Pictures announced that it would distribute The Incredible Hulk in an arrangement separate from Marvel's 2005 deal with Paramount, which was distributing Marvel's other films. In September 2008, after the international success of Iron Man, Paramount signed a deal to have worldwide distribution rights for Iron Man 2, Iron Man 3, Thor, Captain America, the First Avenger, and the Avengers. In late December 2009, the Walt Disney Company purchased Marvel Entertainment for $4 billion. In October 2010, Walt Disney Studios bought the distribution rights for Marvel's The Avengers and Iron Man 3 from Paramount Pictures, with Paramount's logo remaining on the films, as well as for promotional material and merchandise. Although Walt Disney Studios Motion Pictures is the only studio credited at the end of these films, Disney has distributed all subsequent Marvel Studios films. In July 2013, Disney purchased the distribution rights to Iron Man 2, Thor, and Captain America, the First Avenger from Paramount. The Incredible Hulk was not part of the deal, due to an agreement between Marvel and Universal, where Marvel owns the film rights and Universal owns the distribution rights for this film, as well as the right of first refusal to distribute future Hulk films. According to The Hollywood Reporter, a potential reason why Marvel has not bought the film distribution rights to the Hulk as they did with Paramount for the Iron Man, Thor, and Captain America films is because Universal holds the theme park rights to several Marvel characters that Disney wants for its own theme parks. In February 2015, Sony Pictures Entertainment and Marvel Studios announced a licensing deal that would allow Spider-Man to appear in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, with the character first appearing in Captain America: Civil War. Marvel Studios also explored opportunities to integrate other characters of the Marvel Cinematic Universe into future Spider-Man films financed, distributed, and controlled by Sony Pictures, with Robert Downey Jr. the first confirmed to reprise his role as Tony Stark, Iron Man in Spider-Man: Homecoming. In June 2015, Feige clarified that the initial Sony deal does not apply to the MCU television series, as it was very specific, with a certain amount of back and forth allowed. Broadcast. In June 2010, Marvel Television was launched with Jeff Loeb as head. By July 2012, the division had entered into discussions with ABC to create a show set in the MCU, and in August, ABC ordered a pilot for a show called S.H.I.E.L.D., with the Avengers writer-director Joss Whedon involved. It was later renamed Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. In January 2014, the series Marvel's Agent Carter was announced, joining Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. at ABC, while a pilot order for the half-hour live-action comedy series, Marvel's Damage Control, was revealed in October 2015. While talking about Marvel potentially making comedy series, Loeb said in January 2016 that Marvel always feels humor should be a part of anything they produce, despite possibly fitting more within a darker genre, as Daredevil and Jessica Jones do, while also staying grounded and real. He added, "There are moments of levity that are in life that you need to bring to the table, or else it just becomes overwhelmingly oppressive. If you're going to explore comic book elements, it's always a good idea to make sure that the audience is aware that, yeah, it's funny too." In May 2016, after ABC had cancelled Marvel's Agent Carter and passed on Marvel's Most Wanted, ABC Entertainment president Channing Dungey said that Marvel and ABC were working together, looking at series that would be beneficial to both brands moving forward. In November 2016, Marvel and IMAX Corporation announced Marvel's Inhumans, based on the species of the same name, after a planned film based on the characters had been removed from Marvel Studios' slate. The first 2 episodes of the series were set to premiere in IMAX theaters in September 2017, for 2 weeks, before airing on ABC with the remainder of the series. Ben Sherwood, president of Disney ABC Television Group, said, "We've worked very carefully with our friends at Marvel Studios, and this is a critical point, to make sure that calendar-wise and content-wise we are only enhancing the MCU." The theatrical debut of the series was timed to not interfere with the release of any Marvel Studios films. The theatrical run of the series will take place between the releases of Spider-Man: Homecoming and Thor: Ragnarok. The deal was initially suggested to Marvel by IMAX after they had held a successful IMAX event with Game of Thrones in 2015. Sherwood described it as a quadruple win: a win for IMAX, a win for Marvel, a win for ABC Studios, and a win for ABC to launch a show in an innovative way and get attention in an increasingly crowded market. Sherwood hoped that this would be the first of several innovative ways to launch television programming. Online streaming. By October 2013, Marvel was preparing for drama series and a mini-series, totaling 60 episodes, to present to video-on-demand services and cable providers, with Netflix, Amazon, and WGN America expressing interest. In November 2013, it was announced that Disney would provide Netflix with live-action series based on Daredevil, Jessica Jones, Iron Fist, and Luke Cage, leading up to a mini-series based on The Defenders. Disney CEO Bob Iger stated that Netflix was chosen to air the shows when Disney realized it could use the streaming service as a way to grow the popularity of the characters. He added that, if the characters proved popular, they could become feature films. Loeb later stated that Marvel was not interested in making 4 pilots, and then hoping someday that they could all get together. Netflix really understood what it is we wanted to do. They're very open to directors that might not have the same opportunity in broadcast television. The notion of having all 13 episodes at one time, particularly in serialized storytelling, is very appealing. Loeb also added that the 4 characters chosen all had a previous existing relationship and all grew up on the same kind of stoop in New York in the comics. So it lent itself to a world. Does that mean these shows are going to be the same number? They can't be. The characters have different issues, different problems, different feelings about them. The example that I continually give is that I cannot think of 2 films that are more different in tone than The Winter Soldier and Guardians of the Galaxy. And yet, if you watch them back to back, they feel very Marvel. They feel very much like, oh, it is still the same universe that I'm in. Quesada confirmed in April 2014 that the Netflix series would be set within the MCU. Loeb explained that, within the Marvel Universe there are thousands of heroes of all shapes and sizes, but the Avengers are here to save the universe, and Daredevil is here to save the neighborhood. It does take place in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It's all connected. But that doesn't necessarily mean that we would look up in the sky and see Iron Man. It's just a different part of New York that we have not yet seen in the Marvel movies. In January 2015, Netflix Ted Sarandos said Netflix planned to release a Marvel series approximately a year apart from each other after Daredevil's April 2015 release. A year later, Sarandos noted that the release schedules of the Marvel Netflix series are dependent on the long production times and long post times. In some cases, when we have characters crossover, it makes it more difficult to manage production. It's not the goal to put out more than one or two each year. The complex one is really the Defenders. The Defenders production schedule will determine a lot of the season 2 and 3 output of those shows. He also noted on potential spin-offs that all the characters in the universe could also spin out into their own series at some point, with Netflix ordering Marvel's The Punisher, a spin-off from Daredevil, that April. Sarandos later stated that Netflix was trying to close the gap between releases of Marvel seasons, but would always prioritize the quality of the series over higher numbers of releases per year. He also said that Netflix was open to exploring the MCU beyond the Defenders series, including potential crossovers with ABC's Marvel series. Cable. In April 2016, the ABC-owned cable network Freeform announced Marvel's Cloak and Dagger, based on the characters of the same name, with a straight-to-series order for 2018. The network confirmed that the series would be its first venture into the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and described the show as a superhero love story, a premise that Variety called a seamless fit for Freeform, given the network's target audience of becomers. Crossovers to feature films. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. executive producer Jeffrey Bell revealed at the show's 2014 Payleafers panel that the producers and writers are able to read the screenplays for upcoming MCU films to know where the universe is heading. He noted that, since the films have to be big and move quickly through a lot of huge pieces, it is beneficial for the films to have the television series fill in any gaps for them. His fellow executive producer Jed Whedon explained that each Marvel project is intended to stand alone first before there is any interweaving, and noted that the series has to work with the film division and be aware of their plans so as not to interfere when introducing someone or something to the universe. Bell elaborated that this was preferable so that people who do not watch the films can still follow the series, and vice versa. Joss Whedon noted that this process, unfortunately, just means the TV show gets, leftovers. He stated that, for example, the series' creative team initially wanted to use Loki's scepter from the Avengers, but were unable due to Whedon's plans for it in Avengers: Age of Ultron. In April 2014, Quesada stated that, beyond connecting to themselves, the Netflix series would connect with the films and other television series. In October 2014, Feige said the opportunity certainly exists for characters in the Netflix series to appear in Avengers: Infinity War. In March 2015, Loeb spoke on the ability for the Netflix series to cross over with the films and the ABC series, saying, "As it is now, in the same way that our films started out as self-contained and then, by the time we got to the Avengers, it became more practical for Captain America to do a little crossover into Thor 2 and for Bruce Banner to appear at the end of Iron Man 3. We have to earn that. The audience needs to understand who all of these characters are and what the world is before you then start commingling." In September 2015, Feige elaborated on the films referencing the television series, saying, "I think that's inevitable. At some point, the schedules do not always quite match up to make that possible. It's easier for the shows. They're more nimble and faster and produce things quicker than we do, which is one of the main reasons you see the repercussions of Winter Soldier or Avengers, Age of Ultron in the show. By the time we start doing a movie, they'd be midway through a season. By the time our movie comes out, they'd be starting the next season. So finding the timing on that is not always easy. Loeb talked further on the subject in July 2016, reiterating the issue of scheduling by saying, "If I'm shooting a television series and that's going to go on over a 6-month or 8-month period, how am I going to get a television series actor to be able to go be in a movie?" He noted that this would not be as much of an issue if characters were making very minor cameo appearances, but explained that Marvel was not interested in cameos and Easter eggs just for the sake of fan service, which could detract from the story being told. "As I often get reported by you folks for saying Sal connected, our feeling is that the connection isn't just whether or not somebody is walking into a movie or walking out of a television show. It's connected in the way that the shows come from the same place, that they are real, that they are grounded." In January 2017, Vincent D'Onofrio, who portrays Wilson Fisk in Daredevil, said he would love to switch over to the movies, but I think it's pretty much been said it's not going to happen, or at least not for a very, very long time. D'Onofrio cited Feige's previous reasoning as well as the fact that the films already had difficulty bringing big characters in that they have to service in the writing, and adding characters from the television series would be just too many characters, since the films were trying to figure out already how to individualize more and, at the same time, keep the Avengers going. In March 2017, Anthony Mackie, who portrays Sam Wilson, Falcon in the films, felt a crossover between the films and television series wouldn't work at all, given they are different universes, different worlds, different companies, different designs, and that Kevin Feige is very specific about how he wants the Marvel Universe to be seen in the film world. The following May, Feige noted that a character appearing in a television series would not necessarily exclude them from appearing in a film, adding that, at some point, there's going to be a crossover, repetition, or something. Thank you for watching. Brought to you by WikiVidi Documentaries. Please like and subscribe below. Please like and subscribe below.